If you believe in Jesus, if his name already lives gently in your heart, then this story is for you. It is for those who know his voice not only in sound, but in surrender. Stay with this story because faith often speaks when words fall silent. Miriam Hayes was 38 when silence arrived without warning. Not the peaceful silence of prayer, but the frightening kind that steals what defines you. Until then, sound had been her language, her calling, her way of loving the world. She was a respected music therapist in a small coastal city, known for healing trauma through melody. Children with speech delays, veterans with shattered nerves, elderly patients trapped in memory all responded to her gentle guidance and musical intuition. Music was not simply her profession, it was her devotion. She believed God lived in harmony, in rhythm, in the way notes carried emotion when words failed. She often thanked Jesus silently while working, never imagining sound could be taken from her. The illness came quietly, a fever that would not break, dizziness that made the room tilt, headaches that pulsed behind her eyes like warning bells. Doctors reassured her at first. Rest, hydration, patience. Miriam trusted and waited. Then one morning she woke to a world that felt wrong. The ocean outside her window moved, but she heard nothing. Her alarm clock vibrated uselessly. Panic clawed at her chest as she clapped her hands, screamed, begged for sound. Medical tests followed. Steroids, scans, whispered conversations she could no longer hear. The diagnosis was sudden sensorineural hearing loss, severe and irreversible. The words felt heavier than silence itself. Her career ended in a single appointment. Music therapy required listening, responding, hearing nuance. Her supervisors were sympathetic but practical. They promised to stay in touch. They didn't. Friends visited at first, speaking too loudly, awkwardly, uncomfortably. Over time, invitations stopped. Conversations moved faster than she could read lips. She watched relationships fade without sound, without explanation. Her family tried, but not deeply. They encouraged positivity, offered shallow reassurance, suggested hobbies. None of them understood that she hadn't just lost hearing. She had lost identity. Miriam's apartment grew quieter than silence. Days blurred into each other. She stopped attending church because hymns only reminded her of absence. Watching others sing felt like standing outside joy, pressing her face against glass. Prayer became difficult. She still believed in Jesus, but belief felt distant, fragile. She wondered why the God she praised through music would remove the very gift she offered him. Nights were the hardest. She lay awake, feeling the weight of her thoughts echoing without sound. Depression crept in slowly, convincing her that usefulness had ended, that her purpose was finished. One evening, restless and hollow, she wandered the streets without direction. Rain soaked her coat. Her phone battery died. She noticed a small church with lights glowing softly through stained glass. She did not plan to enter. She had no expectation of comfort. Yet her feet carried her inside, as if guided by something deeper than choice. The sanctuary was empty and warm. Candles flickered near the altar. She felt the stillness immediately, not absence, but presence. She sat in a pew, shoulders shaking, tears falling freely for the first time in months. She did not speak. She did not ask. She simply sat before the cross, heart open, broken, silent, and in that silence something shifted. She felt Jesus not as sound, but as nearness, not as explanation, but as comfort. The silence no longer felt cruel. It felt held. Miriam returned to that church again and again. She began reading scripture slowly, carefully, letting words sink into her spirit instead of her ears. Verses about the blind seeing, the broken healed, the weary carried. She learned that Jesus healed in many ways, not always by restoring what was lost, but by redefining what was possible. Faith began to replace bitterness. She started practicing silent prayer, sitting with God without expectation. In stillness, she discovered peace that did not depend on sound. She began to believe that hearing was not the only way to listen. One afternoon, she noticed vibrations while touching the church piano. She felt the hum through her fingertips, the resonance through wood and bone. Something awakened inside her. She began experimenting, placing her hands against speakers, floors, walls. She explored music through vibration, rhythm through movement. What she could not hear, she could feel. An idea slowly formed. She researched deaf education, trauma therapy, sensory healing. Her past training and new understanding began to intersect. Miriam volunteered at a local center for deaf children. At first, she doubted herself, but the children responded to her presence, her patience, her gentle guidance through vibration and motion. She taught them to feel rhythm through their bodies, to express emotion through movement. She watched their confidence grow. Purpose returned quietly, humbly. Her faith deepened alongside her work. She thanked Jesus daily, not for restoring sound, but for restoring meaning. She understood that healing does not always look like reversal. Her community grew again, not through old friends, but through shared faith and service. People who saw her not as broken, but as chosen. Miriam began composing again, using vibration-based instruments and visual rhythm patterns. Her compositions were used in therapy centers, churches, and schools for the deaf. She no longer mourned the woman she used to be. She honored her while embracing who God had shaped her into. One Sunday, standing before a small congregation, she shared her testimony through sin and projected words. She spoke of loss, despair, and the Jesus who met her in silence. Many wept, not because of tragedy, but because they recognized truth. God speaks in many ways, sometimes most clearly when noise disappears. Miriam Hayes never regained her hearing, but she regained everything that mattered. Purpose, faith, love, and peace rooted firmly in Jesus. And now, dear listener, if you believe in Jesus, remember this story. Remember that faith is not measured by what we regain, but by whom we trust when things are taken. Jesus speaks even in silence. Stay faithful, stay surrendered. He is near.